Hi, hello, welcome. My name is Jesse, and I just saw Hokum, written and directed by Damian McCarthy. This movie is about a writer named Owen Bowman, played by Adam Scott, who travels to Ireland to scatter his parents' ashes in a place that the two of them dearly loved. Now, when he gets to Ireland, he checks into the Bilberry Woods Hotel. Right off the bat, there's just some dicks. Not like dicks, but like assholes out in the parking lot where this guy hit a goat, and he's like, the goat was in my way, so I had to kill the goat. And Adam Scott's like, in classic Adam Scott kind of fashion, right? Like walking in with his luggage, right? And he's like, no, you didn't. And goes inside to check in. And then there's some other guys in this hotel. There's this old man in this wheelchair that's telling this story, this folklore of a local witch and warning these two little boys about a local witch. And then Adam Scott walks in and he's like, hey, why don't you guys go find your parents and don't talk to strangers? And here I am thinking, you only talk to someone like that if you know who they are. Not Adam Scott. Not Owen Bowman, the writer. This guy is just trash talking a complete strange old man. Anyway, why is this movie spooky? The Bilberry Woods Hotel is haunted by a witch, right? That makes sense. So there's a few characters of note at this hotel, that kind of paints the picture. There's Fergal, the guy that hit the goddamn goat. There is Mal, who is running the front desk and I guess the manager of the hotel. They might have said that, but I'm not that bright. There's Albie. Sweet character, dude. Sweet little guy, Albie. I loved Albie. And then there's Jerry, this dude out in the woods that we meet when he goes to spread his parents' ashes, of course. And he talks about all this magic milk that he drinks when he takes mushrooms. You know what I mean? And then there is Fiona. She is one of the workers at this hotel. She's really the only person here that gives Ohm the time of day. And because of that, he starts to care about her. After he spreads his parents' ashes, we hear about the witch from Albie, as he says that it is always up in the honeymoon suite, which is the top part of this Bilberry Woods hotel, right? That's where the witch is haunting. Nobody goes in there. Not you, not me. Nobody goes in the honeymoon suite. Understood? The story takes sort of a shift, where he goes back up to his room. Fiona has a bad feeling, bad intuition. She goes up to check on him, and Adam Scott has hung himself. It jumps into this black and white sequence. It's this faded, filmy thing. I don't know if it's a dream sequence or if it's Adam Scott in hell or heaven or some purgatory. It seems like a purgatory. And there's this woman, the witch. The witch is making this noise, and it is terrifying. It is awful. It is one of the scariest things I've ever heard. She's making this noise that a lot of people with sleep paralysis or that have night terrors, that experience night terrors, might hear, or that might make that noise, I should say. Now it's been weeks. Adam Scott returns to the Bilberry Woods Hotel to collect his things when he finds out that Fiona, the girl that found him and saved his life, is missing. So what is Owen Bowman going to do about that? He's going to investigate. And that's where this movie really kicks into a high gear. Because now he has a lead that maybe it was Jerry, magic milk guy in the woods. But when he goes and finds Jerry, Jerry's like, no, the haunted honeymoon suite. That's where she is. And, we're already pretty far into the movie at this point. But this is where I was really, that meme of the guy that's sitting back in his chair and then he leans forward. You know what I mean? And once he gets into this honeymoon suite, that's when it becomes one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. There were several points in this movie. Listen, I have seen plenty of horror movies at this point in my life. But this one in particular, there were times within this honeymoon suite where I had to look away. Because, dude, it was too scary. I saw Damian McCarthy's other movie, Oddity, in preparation of this one. And I was pleasantly surprised to know that it was much less a haunted house horror movie and more of a suspenseful murder mystery thriller with a hint of haunting. There aren't many ghosts in his movies, I have learned. Most of them focus on solving a crime. And because of that, Damian McCarthy is sort of a master at storytelling with what he does. When he gets into this whole murder mystery thing, the way that Damian McCarthy unravels this story and just peels back the layers, revealing the audience a new piece of information of, where is Fiona? And then when we find out what happened to Fiona, why did this happen to Fiona? Who did this to Fiona? And so on and so forth until you finally have the whole mental picture, and then it goes even further. I was genuinely impressed by this movie, if it isn't obvious. It was atmospheric, it was dreadful, it was eerie, it was delicious. It was like cereal. I was eating it up. I wanted more. There was a lot of locked off shots in this movie. slowly, and you would hold them. You would Hokum. It created this very methodical and precise dread by holding these long, locked-off shots. Another thing that this movie handles very well is darkness and sound, and understanding that not being able to see what is so terrifying intensifies the horror aspect of it all. Hearing something and not being able to see it is way more terrifying than actually seeing whatever is making that noise. I don't know how long we spent in that honeymoon suite. It was amazing. It was perfect. It was pure nightmare mode. Every jump scare in the honeymoon suite felt earned and warranted. The design of the witch was amazing. I really want to shout out some of the people that worked on this. The editor was Brian Philip Davis. I think he did a terrific job editing this movie. Never once did it feel like it was dragging. The cinematographer's name is Colm Hogan. Wonderful cinematography, especially once we get into some of the practical lighting of this hotel. It's very dark, and then you have all these practical lamps that are lit in very tungsten, and a lot of them start to flicker, and you can hear the that, and it was perfect, This was the closest movie we're ever gonna get to a Luigi's Mansion. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's that vibe. It's almost nostalgic in sort of a Scooby-Doo kind of way, Those of us that grew up with Scooby-Doo are gonna be like, here it is, you know what I mean? The production designer's name is Toll Froelich. Amazing production design. The costume designer was Laura Campbell. Great job all around. There's a few sequences where we flash into Om Bowman's mind, and we see some of the scenes that he's writing for his book, and he's writing this Conquistador trilogy, right? So we see all of these Conquistador outfits, and it's amazing. The costumes are amazing. Everyone that worked on this movie seemed to have done a fantastic job. One thing I really appreciate about this movie is the logic. Since Om Bowman did attempt suicide up in his hotel room, it makes sense that there are a few times where he will just walk into darkness, even when he hears cackling of a witch. Because what does he have to lose? He already tried to go toward death. So everything else is just to help someone else. And it's admirable and it's logical. I loved the design of the witch that you get to see in certain pieces. I really loved the design of Jack the Donkey. This fucker. Hate how that looks, but I also love how this looks. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Look at that. I love that. Ugh. Dude, I don't know who played Jack the Donkey, but amazing. Will O'Connell. Oh my god. Albie played Jack? That's amazing. Great. Fuck. It's things like that, right? Okay. So I want to give this movie a perfect 10 out of 10, but I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 for one reason and one reason only. There was a piece where the sun rises and suddenly we think we're in the clear, but the guy, Mal, the hotel manager, he's turns out to be a bad guy. He's more of a villain than the witch. Then we get this kind of cat and mouse chase that goes on way too long. I would trim that. You could make this movie 20 minutes shorter and it would still work amazing. I'm going to give this movie a 9 out of 10, reduce the fraction, 4.5 out of 5 stars for all you letterboxers out there. Please go see Hokum for yourself and make your own decision. The month of May is going to be huge for horror movies. So, expect to see me again. That's all I'm saying. Thanks for watching. All right, bye.